Yes. Commissioner Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Yabbitt absent. Commissioner Morrison.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Hi, my name is Trina Traylor, and I am the Campaign and Coalition Manager at the Los Angeles Black Worker Center. Today, Los Angeles is in a defining moment. For generations, Black workers and community colors helped build this city. We built the roads, we built the transit, we built the systems that keep LA running. Yet access to career track public jobs has long been blocked by structural barriers. Today, that exclusion continues through a so-called merit-based civil service system, one shaped by biased exams and slow hiring that keep opportunity out of reach. That's why charter reform matters. And we are already making progress. On March 10th, we won phase 1. The commission unanimously approved our workforce equity recommendations and moved them to meet and confer with the union, one key step towards city council. And we are not done. Los Angeles still operates on a civil service model from an era of racial exclusion. On paper, it looks neutral, but outdated exams, slow hiring, and opaque scoring continue to filter out Black and working class workers.
I'll say my experience has been very daunting and tiring. It's been very hard trying to find a stable job. And anything you do find is like part-time or like it doesn't last.
To be left out is like a slap in the face. It's like, thank you for your services, but we got it from here.
A lot of positions that we apply for, that we test for as Black workers within the city to try to advance. And even though we are fully qualified and we pass the test that they give us, they don't give us the positions.
This isn't about jobs, this is about power. When communities are blocked out of access to public sector jobs, we lose voice, we lose income, we lose representation in the institutions that shape our lives. That's why we are fighting for reforms that modernize hiring and testing, replace biased exam with skills-based assessment, build a public service career pipeline, create real pathways into public sector jobs, create independent oversight for fair hiring. Our campaign asks, who defines public safety? Charter reform is our chance to flip the script so that if you could do the work, you deserve the job, the dignity, and the stability that goes with it. Here's how you can help. Sign the petition to City Council. Show up to key council meetings. Give public comment. Call and email your City Council member. Together, we can build a better Los Angeles for the people that help build Los Angeles.
Hello and good evening, everyone, and welcome to Restore Our Jobs, a charter reform campaign digital experience. I'm Andrea Slater, and in addition to being a member leader here at the Los Angeles Black Worker Center, I also serve on the Political Education Committee. I'm excited to be one of your co-hosts for tonight's event. I've been a member at the Los Angeles Black Worker Center for about 3 years officially, and since being part of the LABWC, I've attended a number of events and have been even more involved in the South LA community. That's because I think it's a great way to build economic and political power for LA's Black population. I think my co-host Julia would agree.
Thank you, Andrea, and you are absolutely correct. My name is Julia Smith, and just like Andrea, I'm also an active member of the Political Education Committee and believe that building political power starts with us. I got involved with the LABWC because I needed support to be eligible to run for the Park Mesa Heights Community Council. And thanks to LA Black Worker Center, I am now the at-large representative for the Park Mesa Council. And I've been a member for 6 years. And I committed once I learned and saw the work that the LABWC was doing for worker justice.
Before we begin tonight's event, I wanted to quickly uplift that although we are meeting virtually, we want this event to be interactive. Please be sure to connect with your community by dropping some emojis, asking questions, and leaving comments in the chat. We have monitors who will be active in the chat and are happy to address any needs you may have.
Now, I'd like to discuss the importance of why we're here tonight, and that's simply to amplify the Charter Reform campaign. Our goal is to have 1,000 people sign our digital sign-on letter, which will be added in the chat. All you have to do is click it and sign. In this letter, we're asking elected officials to pass a motion to support our recommendations to reform the current charter. Many people have never heard of the city charter, although it impacts our everyday lives greatly. If you're unfamiliar with what charter reform is, my colleague and fellow LABWC member leader, Ted Booker, is here tonight to explain a bit about what it is, why it's important, and the demands we have given to City Hall in order to implement overdue change. Ted, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Julia. And with both she and Andrea, I am a member of the Political Education Committee at the LABWC, and I am here to talk about just the work, the wins, and what comes next. So when you talk about charter reform, we're not just talking about policy. We're not just talking about process, and even not just reform. We're really talking about access. We're talking about opportunities and opportunities where the Black workers and people working across the city have a real chance to build stable, dignified lives. One of the things that I love about the work that we do is there's always, I love the strategy and critical thinking that is used whenever we decide to attack an issue or to be able to move forward on and advocate for our behalf. So at LABWC, we start from a place of truth. And when we looked at this, looked at charter reform, we recognized that the systems that we were working within were not designed with us in mind. And when it comes to employment, especially public sector employment, Black workers have historically been last hired, first fired, or locked out altogether. And that is not accidental. That is structural. So once again, when we talk about charter reform, we're talking about changing the rules of a system that has excluded us for generations. So again, when it comes to our approach, when it comes to strategy, I love the fact that we take a grassroots approach, and that's talking about like issue mapping, root cause analysis, and power structure. Those three areas allow us to really zero in on our strategy on what the real issues are and what's our point of attack and how we can really be able to make a difference in what we do. And so with issue mapping, we look at the full picture. We recognize that there are many issues in the city in the city charter, but we made a decision to focus on employment because jobs are the foundation. Jobs determine whether you can stay in your home. Jobs determine whether you can provide for your family. Jobs determine whether you can build generational stability. And what we found was clear: outdated rules, rigid exams, slow hiring process. These were not just inefficient, but were acting as gatekeepers, turning opportunity into exclusion. And so when we take a deeper dive in terms of root cause analysis, we ask a deeper question. Why is this happening? Because it's easy to say the process is slow or the exams are neutral, but when we look closer, we understood something important. These are not, the systems are not neutral. They are policy choices, and those choices have created outcomes where Black workers and other marginalized communities are consistently pushed to the margins. So instead of treating symptoms, we targeted the root cause, and that is looking at a system that was never designed to equip us. And so once we determine that, and then when you start looking at power structures, we ask the question, who has the power to change this? So we identified the Charter Commission, the City Council, departments, and other decision makers. And we also looked at who benefits from current system. And so we were where resistance exists. And most importantly, we looked at where pressure matters because changes just don't happen by accident. It happens when people organize, when we speak up and apply pressure in the right places. So with that in mind, and in looking at what the real issues are, we came up with a set of recommendations that went before the Charter Commission, and some of which were modernize hiring and testing, create independent oversight for fair hiring, build a public service career pipeline, prioritize inclusive recruitment, mandate workforce equity audits, establish a permanent workforce equity commission, and codify a workforce equity clause. These are not just ideas. These are solutions rooted in lived experience, backed by research and driven by community needs. So when you look at our wins and moving the system, um, we were able to do that. We showed up, we testified, we organized, we stayed consistent because that is what is needed. And because of that, all of our recommendations were accepted by the Charter Commission and moved to the next phase. But um, and that is not small. That task is not small. That is what happened when community voices are organized, disciplined, and persistent. So where are we now? We're now entering into the next stage, which is the city council. This is where decisions will be made about what moves forwards to the ballot. And we have to be honest. Although the recommendations were, well, all the recommendations that we submitted to the Charter Commission was passed and submitted to city council, we don't know for sure how many of those recommendations will be approved and ready for ballot. So what that means is the work is not done. The work is beginning again. So what comes next? So what do? We go back to strategy. We organize, we build, we expand because we cannot do this alone. And in expanding, one of the things we recognize is that, and this whole thing about building power is find allies. We recognize that when we fight for Black workers, we open doors for everyone. And and we went through a process of identifying who our allies are, like organizations, communities, workers, advocates, who also benefit from these changes because this is about building collective power, and that's why we're hosting. One of the things that happened is the Political Education Committee is hosting a child reform mixer on April 24th, and you'll hear more about that later. And that whole idea is to bring people together to align interests, to build momentum. And so what we're doing right now is we have a call to action, and this is where you come in. LABWC is not an organization that speaks for the community. We are built by the community. We're member driven. Members shape our priorities. Members drive the agenda. Members lead the work. So if you care about jobs, if you care about equity, opportunity, and justice, we're inviting you to join us, not just as a supporter, but as a member, as someone who helps move the work forward. So in closing, I'll leave you with this. No one knows sustained resistance like Black people. Everything we've gained, we've had to fight for. And this moment is no different. We have made progress. We have moved the system, but we're not finished. Until access is real, until systems are fair, until opportunity is not a promise, but reality, we keep going, we organize, we advocate, we show up together. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Thank you for that campaign overview, Ted. Like Julia mentioned, we're a lot more impacted by the city charter than we'd like to think. So hearing how it all ties together with our fight as Black people in particular was very helpful. It can be easy to represent the organization and say why these things are important, but I think it's even better to hear from the community leaders outside of the LABWC so that they can give their own perspective. So you can see how this affects everyone. So now we're going to move into the panel portion of our event. We have some amazing allies here with us tonight who will introduce themselves and the roles they've played in the campaign thus far. We'll give about 15 minutes for myself and Julia to ask our questions of the guests, but we'd also like to leave a few minutes for you all in the audience to ask panelists any questions you may have as well. Panelists, can you go ahead and introduce yourselves with your names and the organizations you are representing tonight? Let's start with Baba Akili.
How you doing? I'm Baba Akila. I'm with Black Lives Matters, Los Angeles Black Lives Matters Grassroots, the Fannie Lou Hamer Institute, and I work with the CARE program at UCLA. And I have been associated, involved with, and hopefully I'll be on the board of the Black Worker Center. And my history with the Black Worker Centers goes back to 2009, when the Black Worker Center was started. So I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to respond to people's questions, but also to make sure that we have a vision for tomorrow. And I'll turn it over to Dr. Reverend James Thomas.
I'm trying to get myself together, y'all. I was just getting out of my car. So I think I'm good now. So I'm introducing myself. Is that what I'm doing?
Yes.
Okay. I am James Thomas, pastor of Living Word Community Church, professor of Pan-African Studies at Cal State LA, and organizer with Black Lives Matter and president of NAACP San Fernando Valley, and former Charter Reform Commissioner. I like that former part.
Wait, aren't you commissioner for about a couple more months technically?
I am, but I'm trying to act like I'm not.
Hello, everyone. My name is Johan Espinoza. I'm the field director for Cal RCV. And through the organizing and advocacy for us trying to pass ranked choice voting here in LA, I was able to meet Trina and some of the folks at the Los Angeles Black Worker Center. So thank you all for the opportunity to have me here, and glad I can share some of my insight and experience for y'all.
Well, welcome, panelists. My first question is for Akili. The LABWC has clearly shown that this isn't just a Black issue, but an everybody issue. Ally organizations like BLM have also had a heavy presence in this charter reform process. And although we are two separate organizations, from the outside looking in, it could still look like you all have championed our cause because you are a Black organization. Why is it? Why is it important to challenge the idea that Black worker organizing is niche or limited when these issues impact the broader city?
Well, first of all, let me say a couple of things. One, that Black Lives Matters is about ending state-sanctioned violence in all its forms, socially, politically, and economically. And if you don't have a job, that's a form of state-sanctioned violence. And so that's one of the reasons why we have always been in support of the Black Worker Center. But it's the right thing to do. That's the second thing. And then finally, what it does, it opens up a society, and you all, and Trina made reference to this, it opens up to a society that we help build in ways that rightfully puts us in places. And so one, it's the right thing to do. Two, it's a part of our overall mission, which is to end state sanctioned violence. And if you don't have a job, and if you can't take care of yourself and you can't take care of your family, we consider that as state sanctioned violence. And then finally, it's a practical, accessible, and common sense approach to making broader inclusion and making sure that we take our rightful place in the city we help build.
Thank you so much for that response. My next question is for Dr. James Thomas. You were a part of the commission board who voted yes on our recommendations and got it moved to the next phase. First, thank you for your solidarity. And secondly, as someone who was moved by hearing the story of real-life workers facing these issues, what does it say about the power of storytelling and public comment in shaping policy?
That's a very unfair question because I'm teaching African oral traditions as we speak. And as a matter of fact, my classes were to observe what was being shared. And I just want to say I could, you know, um, the situation started off very rocky. And so I had to recommend organizations to make presentations because everybody else acted as if they didn't know any Black organizations. And when I tell you that the presentations that you all did far exceeded anything else that we'd seen. And so it was a no-brainer. You know, it was so thorough. And what I was kind of upset about, remember the lady who I said, I heard y'all are racist over there. She was the head of the water board or something like that, right? Well, it turns out that was her. I didn't say that to say that it was her, but it was her. But the point is that they were shocked by the level of presentation, by the energy, the passion. It was surprising. It took them off guard. And I brought that up because they left before y'all presented. Had they stayed there and heard you all's presentation, it was answering every question that they had. Everything that they were saying that they would hope to do were the exact same things that you all were recommending. And I knew then, and I said that, and I said again, why do Black folks always last? You know, that presentation should have been moved up, and it should have been before the entire commission. And so the other thing too is that what was accomplished was never even supposed to be on the table, never even on the agenda. So not only did you put it on the agenda, but you organized in such a way. I told somebody today, you know, they were calling me about some Black restaurants organizing. I haven't seen y'all. I haven't seen you all, you know, and so you all showed up. And it made a difference. And those stories are very powerful because those stories make me say, I wish you would. See, I'm wondering, I'm trying to figure out what it is that is happening in, I'm gonna say Black people first, but I think it's all people of color. What happens in us when we get into these positions that our communities made possible for us. And now we get in these positions and we have some authority and we act as if we're afraid to use it on behalf of our people. It is not a coincidence what is happening to Black workers in the city of Los Angeles. And what I don't understand is why nobody knows it. So I kept having those kind of moments. I can't believe you don't know this. You must absolutely care nothing about the people of LA. That was my conclusion. Because you should know. If you cared anything, then you should know. And so maybe this is not coincidental. Maybe this is not draconian policies and procedures. Maybe this is by design because it absolutely is working. It is absolutely working. And so I just appreciate the way that, I mean, y'all had real workers.
Dr. Thomas, I'd like to ask you another question.
And I'm sorry, I'm a preacher. That was their whole thing against me on that commission was I was talking.
Oh no, I've heard you speak before, and no worries. But my second question for you is, you've been able to speak in spaces where not everyone shares the same lived experiences. What approaches have helped you move people to understand issues like police accountability or systemic inequity?
I'm really fundamentally, I think that people can change, just fundamentally. Sometimes I think that they can change based upon what I'm saying to them. Often, I'm just recounting history and truth. And in my mind, you automatically should be able to relate to that. And so for me, I will not sit in a room with people who either have a problem with me or I have a problem with them and then talk to Baba Keely about it. I'm going to go to the folk who are the problem to determine, are you trying to be the problem or do you not know how to be anything other than the problem? And so what I would say is I am unapologetically Black. I am in the Department of Pan-African Studies. I am a member of Black Lives Matter. I mean, at the end of the day, I am not going to refuse to speak for Black people because we keep getting left behind. We will fight. And I said this the other day when I was thinking about how do we push this past City Council. To me, it's really simple. It's simply this. You know by now what's been happening to us. There is not a human being on the planet that does not understand that Black people at some point deserve better than what we've been getting. There's also not one person on the planet who does not know that whatever we have fought and died for, they have benefited from it more than we have. I don't care what they say. And so now it's time to pay it forward. That's how I see it. And if you are a white person, blue person, green, I don't care what color you are, if you are not willing to support what Black people deserve, what we deserve, then you are complicit in our oppression. And I'm sorry, I got to treat you like that. So there's no, whether you're Republican Party, Democratic Party, independent, progressive, I don't care what you are. I'm not going to be confused about the role that you're playing in my oppression and my people's oppression. And what I tried to explain even in that situation, none of those people have 3 sons who could be shot down by the police riding around LA. I'm so glad that 2 of my sons are out of Los Angeles. And you know, but highly recognized academically. One of them's a doggone doctor, as a matter of fact. But I still have to worry about that because it doesn't matter what you have achieved. One stop by a cop could end your life. And so to hear people know that that's a reality and be in a position to do something about it and don't, I can't let that stand. So that's kind of where that comes from, you know, from me. You know, as I've said there, my mother was a sharecropper. My grandfather was lynched. And so I'm not going to ever dismiss what they went through because it makes people uncomfortable. And that means Black folks too. I make Black folks uncomfortable too. I've made them, you know, so anyway, that's my heart. That's where I am with it.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Thomas, for that response.
Johan, you're next. Why is it so important for Black workers to be proactive in this charter reform process rather than waiting to respond after the decisions have already been made?
Gotcha. Thank you for that question. First and foremost, you know, I do want to recognize, you know, that I'm not Black, but recognize the intersection between Black and Latinos in this country. And it was, you know, reminded by Commissioner Reverend Thomas, you know, you don't have to be Black to be about Black people, right? So that just got stuck in the back of my head. So, you know, think about it constantly. But in terms of that question, and it was mentioned at the beginning, right? The process isn't that, right? The city council can say, you know what, all the work the commission did, you know, we don't like any of it, and they can just vote it down and restart the process or you know, whatever. So I think that's is important for folks to show up, to call the council members and express support for you know, the 6 recommendations that passed through the Charter Reform Commission. And remember when I was an intern at the city council in San Diego, right? You know, we heard one person call about an issue they care about and we never heard from them again, or it was just that one person, you know, maybe it wasn't as important, right? But when we hear consistent calls, right, about a specific issue or whatnot, that's when we would tell the staffers like, hey, you know, folks are calling about this issue. It should probably be a part of your priorities this week, or for the month or whatnot, right? So that's the most important, one of the most important parts. The next one, and again, I think Dr. Thomas mentioned it, right? When Black workers are left out of the process, they're not considered, especially if the decision makers don't share that lived experience, right? Which is, again, part of the whole public comment, sharing y'all's experience, doing that storytelling is important, because I don't know what it's like to be a Black man in this country, right? But through the stories, I can only imagine or empathize of how that is, right? And I think that's also very important, why it's for y'all to continue this process and be proactive. Once decisions are made, it's incredibly difficult to change them, right? If the city council decides on maybe one of the proposals, by the time that's decided, we're gonna have to wait another 10 years for another charter reform process to fight for we're doing. Is it going to be a city council ordinance, right? The organizing in LA, can be hard, especially, if there's no big money behind it, right? So that's why especially now, it's really important for y'all to be proactive. And that that saying, right? If you're not at the table, you're on the menu, right? We've heard it through public comment. We've heard folks talk about it, and it's still true, right? So that's why I think it's really important for Black workers to continue organizing and to continue calling, to continue showing up.
Thank you. And I'm sure the audience will agree. Those are some insightful responses. Thank you, panelists. Now I'd like to give the audience a chance to ask any questions that they may have. If you have any questions for our panelists, now's the perfect time to drop them in the chat.
I think someone dropped one already.
Yeah. Already. Okay. What is needed to get City Council to approve the recommendations?
Again, that's an easy one. Organizing. Organizing them like they have never been organized before. Utilizing every resource we have in terms of colleges, universities, churches, the whole 9 yards. I know that there are going to be people who are going to personally be talking to them. That is my plan. I don't know how far that's going to get, because I have not flattered many of them, but I have told the truth. And so we'll see. One of the things that I'm sure Commissioner Stein is going to do is, he was like the most conservative commissioner on the commission. Older Jewish guy, white guy. And he was the one that I really convinced. And, if you followed us, one time he told me to shut the blank up. I'm like, so yeah. And who would think that in the final analysis that he would be the one introducing it? And he honestly, he asked to, and I said, sure. And he's also going to make sure that he is talking to city council, particularly the conservative ones. I don't think we'll have a problem with those that are not, that are progressive, but particularly the conservatives. But the way y'all did what y'all did, I don't see that being a problem. I mean, all of these groups need to find a way to present, just like what happened earlier when you all laid out what the rationale behind how you made the decisions in terms of what to put forward. I think there needs to be something like that for all of the groups that presented. And so, especially, I'll say this, especially when it comes to Black workers, when it comes to police accountability, when we talk about providing legal counsel to immigrants, and then also proportional ranked choice voting. because that double district, not just single district, is going to be really, really important. We're losing the ninth councilmatic district. And so maybe the person that replaces Kern Price will be wonderful to Black people. That's what I hope. That's what I pray. But the fact that there is no Black person that is even contending for it, is kind of problematic. So I'm just hoping that the person who would be replacing him is going to hold Black people in high regard, as some of the folks who I met in this commission process and some of the people that I know, because I want to make it clear it's not everybody.
Couple of things I want to jump in and say. I think, first of all, you've been successful to get it this far. And starting with first public education, you had to let us and other people know what the breakdown was and what the recommendations were. And you turn those recommendations into, they were connected to demands, simple, understandable, doable. Secondly, continue to tell the story, to continue to bring people forward, to talk about their understanding, their efforts, and their intent on working for the city, starting with the 1,000 Strong program and how that got started and why it was meaningful and important. And then finally, I think you're gonna have to make sure that the elected officials, much like the members of the commission, understand that this is a benefit to not only Black Los Angeles, but to all. I mean, because everything we've ever done has made society better for all people. Even though it may have started out benefiting Black people, it ultimately made it better for all people. And that's, I think, part of what's connected to your storytelling. That's connected to the reason why there is a Black Worker Center. So continue to do what you're doing, public education, telling your story, engaging council members about the benefit to all Los Angeles, and particularly those Los Angeles who have been locked out, left out, and pushed out. So I think that continue to do what you've been doing. And I do want to make a quick pitch, if I may. Black Lives Matters has our annual People's Budget LA, and we certainly want to ask people to fill out the People's Budget LA survey, because that is connected to will there be resources available to make sure that the thousand strong and the jobs that are needed are there. And we've been doing this now for 6 years. Yes, our 6 years, asking people how they want their money spent. So I'm going to put it in the chat, and we would ask you all to fill it out. Second, I would encourage you to continue to do what you're doing, more of it, deeper, better, faster.
Andrea,
And I would just, okay.
Yes.
Dr. Thomas.
Yeah, somebody mentioned storytelling, and I think let me make it a little clearer. Okay, I'm a pastor. I can't hide that. Everybody knows that, right? So what I did was I also knew that this is like high holy time for all the traditional faiths, right? During this time. And so I knew that I needed my Jewish brothers and sisters to vote in favor of this. And so I created this Jubilee framework. The strategy was for them to pay so much attention to that that they would go along with the rest, right? But what was important about that passing was it specifically spells out that there is no justice without repair. So don't even talk to us about equity and justice if you're not interested in repairing us. So that's one of the first things. But also too, in terms of storytelling, I just told the story of Leviticus 25, which is the year of Jubilee in the Bible. That's all I did. And I wrapped the policy, I just attached the policy to that. And one of the things that I know, being a political science professor, is that we are losing because while the Republican Party has completely taken over the church, they have completely, not the black church, but many churches have completely taken it over. We're scared to really engage the church on the level that they are really well equipped to function in, and that is what? Telling the story. Telling the story. Pastor, what's the story of the people in your church about work, around work? Can you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
You can't, that this impacts everybody. And you don't just have to go to the black church. You can go to any church, but in telling the story, you got to be authentically you. And, the thing that people don't know about me is that my degree is in public policy. And so my view is there is not a policy that does not represent some human being's thinking. And so if the policy stinks, the human being that wrote the policy does too.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas. Andrea, have you checked the chat to see if there's any more questions?
I did see a couple.
Oh, okay.
So one of them was referencing the lawsuits that are addressing against policies, and this one is specifically talking about scholarships that are addressing disparities. And so what are some good counter arguments to the notion that addressing disparities is discrimination in itself?
Well, that's one of the reasons that the lineage language was being included. And so if the city adopts lineage language, then it's no more race, it's lineage. And so you can have special programs based on lineage in the same way that you have Native American programs that specifically point to Native Americans. You have programs that even specifically for veterans and police, that's not quite that's legacy associated with an organization, but not in terms of lineage, blood lineage. And so that's one of the ways to really get around the unconstitutional argument. And that was Erwin Shermaninsky. He is the one who was responsible for kind of saying, this is the direction that you need to go in order to keep it constitutional. And so that's what we were also asking, that passed as well, that we would use the language of lineage as opposed to race. And I know you're probably referring to the Black Student Achievement Program. They are wanting them to take the Black out of Black Student Achievement Program.
I could also add this, that one of the things that on some of the scholarships that I review, they actually group them by social economic status and demographics, so that was also another way to get around race with Prop 209. Let's see. Okay, another question. How can building Black institutions complement the work of charter reform efforts?
Well, a couple of things. And I want to leave some space for our other panelists. But we have been purposely, deliberately, and methodically excluded. We're going to have to take the same purposeful, deliberate, and methodical steps to be included. And part of what the Black Worker Center did in order to first bring to the attention, I'm almost certain that many of the commissioners did not know about the conditions that impacted Black workers. And so what the Black Worker Center did was brought that issue forward, educated them on it, and then made a set of recommendations to address it. That, and that is the ingenious. That is, in fact, why there is a Black Worker Center. I think that same approach is going to have to be continued and deepened. The other thing is, and I want to raise this very quickly, we could have missed an opportunity to have like somebody like James on the commission, and it was just quite
A
frankly,
fluke.
well, I wasn't going to say fluke, but a stroke of luck. I was going to say that he was on there. And one of the things I want to lift up and advocate for is, well, two things. One, I think we need to pay attention to these kind of public policy groupings that happen and say we need Black voices there, and we need more than Black faces in high places, because we've had that before, and we need people who are connected to the struggle, who are connected to organizations, and who are connected to demands that really make transformative change. And then finally, we need to talk about in our community with our institutions like the Black Workers Center, like Black Lives Matters and others, we need to talk about what we are for. We know what we're against. We're against racism, we're against anti-Blackness, but we are for making sure that the society that we build, we are included. We are for making sure that Black people have jobs. We are for making sure that Black people have resources to have housing. We are for making sure that Black students, achieve. So we have, I think, talked about what we're against. Now we got to talk about what we're for. I think the Black Worker Center, has done a great job. I mean, and look at why a Black Worker Center was created in the first place, because the Black jobs crisis was not being talked about or addressed. And if you remember, most of your work for the past, you're going into 20 years now, in about 3 more years, has been around the Black jobs crisis. And there is a Black job crisis. What do we do about it? And we, as Black people who are being impacted about it, we are going to tell you. And then I made reference to stories. One of the things that the Black Worker Center has done well, and it's reflected in your committee structures, is bringing forth the people who are most impacted. Too often we go to experts. Too often we fall back on what are the consultants say. One of the things that I remember early on when I was a consultant, a senior consultant there, we drove this point that we don't organize people so that we can speak. We organize people so that they can speak for themselves. And I think because you can, and you have creditable, stories, you have creditable presenters, and you have the capacity to come together and tell those individual stories, which results in collective points. And so I want to urge you to keep that up. As I reflect on it now, I'm pleased that I was around at the beginning. And let me just say this. There was an effort in the early days to say, do y'all really want to be called, or do you have to be called a Black Worker Center? Can't y'all just be the South LA Worker Center? And the leadership at the time, Lola, said, no, we're going to be explicitly Black. And you got to continue to be that. You have a rich tradition, you have successes, connect and build on those successes.
Okay. Well, we thank you for your time, all of you. And we'd like to move forward with our second panel for the evening. At this time, you'll be hearing from Los Angeles Black Worker members and Black workers who are experiencing some of these things that we've talked about firsthand. I'm confident that hearing their stories will only emphasize why the charter needs to be reformed and why recommendations need to get passed at City Hall. We're going to get started with the panel, but make sure to have your questions ready for the end. Panelists, please introduce yourselves and share a little about your journey as a Black worker here in LA. Let's start with you, Kimyetta. You're on mute.
Okay.
Thank
Hi,
you.
my name is Kimyetta Johnson, and I'm a graduate of the LA Black Worker Center Ready to Work program. So a little background about me is I was born and raised here in California, but moved out to Las Vegas because it wasn't affordable to stay here. And once my kids were grown, I wanted to come back home. So I heard about the Black Worker Center and the opportunities that they offered to get a job with the city. So that sparked my return to an idea in me to return to Los Angeles. I felt being accepted to the program with the promise of a job with the city would ensure I could afford to come back to California. And then once I came back and I was in the program, accepted to the program, the experience was amazing. I learned a lot and I interacted with lots of like-minded people. One thing I valued was that the graduates continued to have access to the things that we needed. So for the jobs that we were hired for, there was like they paid for us to get our city commercial driver's license, uniforms, boots, and lots of moral support, along with it being the only program that I know of that actually pays us a small salary while we're being trained and prepared to work for in these jobs. So the continued support is a big plus. So currently, I do have a job working with the city of Los Angeles in sanitation. And I love the job. However, it's has its negative aspects as far as politics on the job. Just not feeling like you're being treated fairly.
Jay?
Hello.
Introduce yourself.
Oh, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ty J. Anderson, and I am a graduate of the LABWC's Ready to Work program. I'm here today to share a little about my Black worker story. Before finding the LABWC, I used to work at Denny's. During my time there was a racist altercation that happened. But unfortunately, my manager didn't protect me as an employee or provide me with any support during that time. Because of this, I left the company and was out of a job for a bit. During my time of unemployment, a family member told me about the Ready to Work program. I applied and was accepted, and the whole journey was amazing. I got to network with other like-minded people. I earned my OSHA certificate and was also getting paid on top of that, which is something that most programs don't do. It was very helpful in the season that I needed it most. It allowed me to put food on the table and pay rent. In addition to this, I was supported with getting a driver's license and improving my resume, mock interviews, and more. Ready to Work is one of the best things that has happened to me. After graduating, I have not been given a chance to interview for any public sector jobs. It feels very frustrating and hurtful knowing that you put time and energy to do something and want to shine, but you haven't even been given a second thought. It can be very mentally draining to go through that for months, but receive no opportunity in return. Despite the city not following through on their promise to give Black workers more jobs, I'm still staying positive that it will happen for me soon. Thank you.
Thank you. And nice to meet you both.
Is that it for our panelists?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome. And my first question is for Kimyetta. One of the LABWC's recommendations to reform the charter is to require workforce equity audits. This is to identify disparities in hiring, promotions, discipline, and workplace culture to ensure workforce equity. Have you ever experienced or witnessed unfair treatment at the workplace, whether in hiring, promotions, or discipline?
Yes, although I'm very grateful for being placed in a job, I have dealt with gender-based racism in the workplace. For example, I have been labeled an angry Black woman. I've been told that I always appear to be angry on the job. That was something I experienced very early on which was frustrating, especially after being so excited about getting the job. And so for me, there's a lot of color at my yard. So it doesn't appear to be racism because there's a lot of Black faces there, but the employees are continually passed over and not given the opportunity to promote to positions that we are qualified for, or to transfer to better positions, or we're placed in positions that we're basically told by being given that position that this is as far as you're going to go.
Well, thank you for that response. I do have another question for you. If the city actually had to review and fix inequities every few years, how do you think that could have changed your experience? Or what changes do you think could be made?
If there were outside reviews, my experience would have a chance of being a lot more fair. Positions that I would like to work in or would be more accessible. I would see more people that look like us in higher positions and know that going for, that getting a better position is a possibility.
Thank you for your response.
Okay, and Tajay, what kind of supporter pathway would have made the difference for you after graduating from Ready to Work in terms of turning that opportunity into stable employment?
Well, I believe that the city should implement something that rewards workers for going through training. There should be a pipeline between work first programs and actual jobs so that workers are not being left behind, hands-on on the job experience. Right now, there's a disconnect between these organizations who are training people to be employed and the actual employers, but we need to be given a chance, even if that looks like giving a worker temporary placement in another job role until they are properly trained for the role that they ultimately want. But leaving people who clearly have the qualifications without the resources cannot keep happening.
I appreciate that. So what does real opportunity mean to you when it comes to the city jobs?
Well, as Kenyatta mentioned earlier, there was a workplace discrimination happening that prevented qualified people like her from moving up. Jobs are instead hired externally. This is a very big problem because if they were to move experienced workers up, then people like me who are coming in after should be able to fill those jobs. If it would look more, it would make more sense and keep the promotion process streamlined.
Okay, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you so much to all of our panelists for the amazing insight into the charter reform campaign. And I want to thank you both for sharing your stories. I hope you all see exactly why we need our recommendations to pass through the next round. If you have any questions for our guests, please drop them in the chat so we can have a Q&A with our panelists. Let's go.
I'd like to thank all of our panelists again for this evening. I'm so inspired to continue fighting after hearing all of your stories. If you also want to join the fight, member leader Ted Booker is going to share exactly how you can do it. Go ahead, Ted.
Yes, thank you, Andrea. Thanks again, everyone, for being here with us tonight. As I mentioned earlier, we've successfully made it past phase 1 of the Charter Reform campaign. On March 10th, we had our recommendation passed with a unanimous vote from the Charter Commission. Again, I want to thank Dr. Thomas, who's here with us tonight, since he was one of the commissioners who voted yes. But the job is far from over. We still have several phases of the campaign ahead, and we need to keep up the momentum. The first thing you can do to support is to sign the petition. The link to the digital sign-on letter will be dropped in the chat again. In the meantime, you can also support our work campaign by coming out to council meetings. There'll be a call to action with that. And by volunteering to share your story with elected officials when we attend charter reform meetings at City Hall. While you're at it, please join our email list and follow us on social media. You see the handles for Facebook, for Instagram, for Blue Sky. And lastly, if you want to become a member, you can scan the QR code on the screen and fill out the form. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Andrea, did you see any questions in Q&A for Q&A?
Let's see. We addressed a real opportunity when it comes to city jobs. It looks like the questions that have been asked were answered.
Okay, well, that's
Any
great.
burning questions left?
Mhm.
All right. Well, thank
All
you.
righty. Well, we are so glad that everyone enjoyed tonight's event. On behalf of myself, my co-host Andrea, the Los Angeles Black Workers Center, tonight's speakers, community members, and allies, we want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. And remember, when we fight, we win.